Thank you, actually, for doing that, Rebecca. In today's reading vlog, I will be reading my most anticipated book of the year. It's not even released yet, and I managed to get my hands on a signed ARC, and I will be reading it with two of my close friends, not in proximity. They live across the country, actually, that are bookish content creators. The book in question is Catabasis by RF Kuang. Obviously, this is an ARC. It is not yet released. It's set to release in August of this year, and it gets better, my friends. It is signed by RF Kuang. That's right. And I will never let you forget it. This isn't the first time I've brought this up. It won't be the last. I also have this Shelves in the City embosser. Shut up. It doesn't get better than this. And my friends in question that live across the country, Sarah and Kalila, be sure to subscribe to them on YouTube because they will also be doing Katabasis reading vlogs as well, kind of in tandem. We all started it at the same time. We're all going to be reading it together. And then we're also going to be doing some voice recording updates throughout, which will be sprinkled in here. They're both amazing. You should definitely watch them. Today is a Saturday, and I started this book yesterday, so on a Friday night, which was so fun. There's no better way to start a weekend than with a new book on a Friday night. I am currently on page 55 of this book. I ended in the middle of a chapter, which is kind of criminal. If you don't know what this book is about, it follows two graduate students that journey into hell to save their professor. And these students also have like a romance happening. I'm pretty sure Rebecca has said that this is the most romantic she's ever ventured into as an author. They're not in love yet. They are rivals currently, academic rivals. They kind of hate each other. In hell, they're like following the maps and reports from other people who have journeyed into hell, like Orpheus and Dante from like mythology. This cover's really cool. There is going to be like a deluxe limited hardcover that I might have to get as well, which is excessive, I know. But if you know me, you might already know that RF Kuang is one of my favorite authors of all time. So this is a 5-star read prediction for me. I have really high expectations, really high hopes for it, which I think is rightfully so, because if anyone can deliver, it's our girl RF Kuang. She has never let me down in the past. I doubt this will be the first. I want to give you some thoughts of what I think about this book so far. So far, so good. Honestly, this is not a spoiler, but I guess I just didn't anticipate them just jumping right into hell. Straight into hell so quickly. No, hi, how are you? It's like they're making a spell to go to hell, like within the first 3 pages, which is faster paced than I guess I originally anticipated, because this is not a short book, and RF Kuang knows how to slow burn and be more character driven, but the fact that we're like literally already in hell and I'm 50 pages into it, I think we're gonna just learn the answers to questions as we go through the book, because why are they even saving this professor? They don't even like him. The price to go to hell is so high. So the price to go to hell is the rest of your lifespan is cut in half. So if they're like 30 and they have like 60 more years to live, hypothetically, they actually have 30 more years to live and they'll die when they're 60 instead of 90 or whatever. And the only way to get out of hell is to speak to the man in charge and like let him give you permission to go back to the land of the living. So the stakes are like incredibly high. So there's just a lot of like character dynamics still to be unraveled, like magical elements in hell to be unraveled. And I think it's just going to be answered as we go instead of like a info dump. It's really landed so far. My heart rate has already increased a few times. I mean, I can only speak to the first 50 pages, but so far I feel like super invested, like right out the gate. So that's been really fun. And it's funny because I just finished the Atlas 6, and that's a very like academia heavy book. This kind of feels in that same genre. I was talking to Sarah over voice memo, and she was saying, I can't believe you read the Atlas 6 basically back to back with Catabasis, because the vibes are very similar. And Olivia Blake and RF Kuang are some of my all-time favorites. They both are very good at unraveling a lot of intellectual or societal problems, and also have a very flowery, magical writing style, which I really love. So the vibes are kind of similar, and I love these vibes. This book is set at Cambridge, and they are magic students, so it's magic set in the real world. It's like forced into our current world and realm, and magic is discipline at that school. I'm learning I really love those settings, those tropes, because I love a dark academia setting, but I also love like a little splash of magic, like Babel, for example, an all-time fave. This is just at Cambridge instead of Oxford. And obviously they're in hell, and there's like a million bajillion other differences, but it has all of the ingredients to make my ideal book. I'm excited to see how much the romance is the plot driver and how heavy that romance is. But so far, getting amazing, immaculate, super fun, super exciting, super intellectual academia vibes. So far, so good. Now, let's go read.
Straight out the door, in and out. You took one step over the threshold and they were already there. And I was like, oh, okay, wait, I could kind of vibe with this. I love a fast paced, book. I love a book that gets like right to the point. But we do have a chunk. We have a chunk of reading. So like the whole book is based in hell. Oh, heard. Kenzi, I don't know how you just read the Atlas 6 and then you go to this book, because the writing styles and just like the premise of this feels very Atlas 6 vibes. And like the writing style of this feels very Olivia Blake. I don't know if RF Kuangs are all kind of like this. Also, Peter, in my mind, is Dr. Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds. Chapters 2 and 3. So I am loving how fast this book is moving, because I feel like it's very similar to Olivia Blake books, like I said before, where you kind of leave them feeling smarter and dumber than you did before. But I think with those kind of books, if they're fast paced, the overload of information doesn't seem as daunting, and it makes it like more enjoyable. Attention span, me and her, we don't get along very well. And we're both loving this, so.
For 20 years, Siona has devoted every waking moment to the study of magic, fueled by a mad desire to achieve the impossible, to be the first woman ever admitted to the high magistracy at the University of Magics and Industry. She developed her own coding language, basically, using like 4 different methods.
There's computers?
No, it's not a computer.
How do you code?
This spellograph. It's like a typewriter almost. And they source it from there, and they write their spells, and then they enter it. I don't really know. Hopefully I learn more.
Is this a 5-star prediction?
Yeah.
Because I'm reading a 5-star prediction too.
This will be 5 stars.
Chapter 5, and Alice, the main character, just had to shit in hell, which is so funny. She just shit in hell, and then she put sand over it. And I think that's so funny that her shit in this book, in this world, is sitting in hell. Like, that is so funny to me. Anyways, this is like kind of iconic.
Good morning, everyone. I'm about to head into work, but I did want to give you a little update. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, that is white wine spilled on my most prized book in my collection. I have nothing to say to defend myself. This did happen at Shelves in the City. I've had time to process. I'm going to tell myself that this is a piece of Shelves in the City memorialized, and I took the wine back home with me, and it's very sentimental. It just makes it more sentimental, right? One of a kind, if you will. That's what I'm telling myself to cope, and I hope you'd support me in that. As for a reading update, you can see that I started annotating, and by annotating I mean leaving little tabs in the book. That's like the extent of my annotations usually, is just leaving a tab like on top of the passage I want to mark. And I am currently on page 206. Well, 205. I'm on chapter 13. I was trying to stop at this chapter and then I just read it like the first page, which I don't know why I did that. And I will say my prediction was indeed correct about learning more as we go, because as I told you, we jumped into hell real quick. I was like, okay, we don't know any context of anything ever, or any character relationships, or history between these two characters, or these two characters and their professor, and we are doing some time jumping. So we'll be in hell one chapter, and then the next chapter will be at Cambridge in their studies with their professor learning. So it is that time jumping situation, which I actually really like that, because now we're at a point where it's page turning in both timelines, and it does get more like sinister. If you love a journey, if you love a quest, I know it's not for everyone, but I tend to really love a mission structure in a book, especially a fantasy book, then you'll really get along with this book. There's like an end destination in mind, checkpoints along the way that they're looking for, and it's like forced proximity. There's like this one scene that happened. I think it was like literally in chapter 5. I won't tell you what it was, but in chapter 5, there was this little mishap that happened. And I was like, wait, RF Kuang, is this you? Am I in a dark academia book set in hell, or am I in a contemporary forced proximity rom-com where they go camping? I don't see a difference. I love the forced proximity. I love the journey through hell. I love the dark academia vibes. I love R.F. Kuang's writing style tremendously. I love the quest. I love the mystery we're still unraveling in the past. I love the stakes. It's so fast-paced. Definitely the fastest RF Kuang book I've ever read. Like, this is a page-turner when I expected it to be like a grind. And it is still very mentally, intellectually stimulating, but in a way that we're like turning the pages. I think I'm like at 40%, if I had to guess. I'm gonna go to work now. I'll check in with you later. I love this book. Not feeling my best, not looking my best, but I do have a reading update, and the show must go on. Anything for Catabasis. If they can journey through hell, so can I. Listen, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Katabasis, am I in a contemporary romance, or am I in a dark academia fantasy? Too soon to tell. So last night I was reading chapter 13, and damn, RF Kuang, I was not familiar with your game. She knows how to describe the intimacy of love and friendship and companionship, and there is no physical intimacy implied. It is literally just the companionship, the comfortability, the peace of being so known by someone and being comfortable with the silence and spending late nights together, quality time. Wow. To be loved is to be seen. Like, Come on now. I was speechless. I have full body chills right now because the way RF Kuang was able to describe and bottle up that feeling of comfort and familiarity and the intimacy of just being known so closely and observed by someone, especially in vulnerable moments like past midnight study sessions, just to capture that on words, on paper, knowing all that now in the context of hell, even more heart-wrenching. Like, just take my heart out, stomp on it, flush it down the toilet, run it over. Why don't you? Thank you, actually, for doing that, Rebecca. It's a wild ride so far, and I've just been so impressed by it. Actually, the scene directly before, I think that's chapter 12, directly before those, like, long-winded passages of love and affection and friendship, that scene, my eyes twitching, infuriated me. To my bones, I feel furious, actually. That's where I'm currently at.
I finished Katabasis, and oh my god, it was so good. RF Kuang is quite literally that girl. There were so many things that I highlighted, underlined, tabbed, and everything. And because this was an arc, I told myself, I'm not going to write in it. I'm not going to put anything in it. I want to keep it as pristine as possible. I literally ruined that the first 30 pages. It was just so good. I was like, no, I need to highlight this. I need to be able to look back at this information. So that's how good it was for me. I love the two characters, Alice and Peter. They're very flawed, very morally gray at times, but overall good people. And I felt like that's what made them so realistic. They were so lovable and oftentimes hateable too, but you understood where they were coming from. It was very circumstantial situations that put them in a very morally precarious light. I just love how she fleshed out the information in these characters. I like that she didn't spoon feed us as the reader this information, but she would have a situation arise in hell and then she would go back into the past. I love when authors do that because I don't think it's I don't know. I think it's annoying when authors feel like they have to spell out everything for you as a reader because it's almost an insult to your intelligence. So I love that she gave us information and backstory in this kind of natural way. And I think that made the story a little bit more believable as well. And there were some instances that I didn't like, that I was uncomfy about and made me irritated with the characters. But that is what made them more realistic to me because that's just life. Nobody's perfect. And at the end, they finally got there, not only within themselves and they grew as individual characters, but the dynamic between Alice and Peter also grew as well. And that was just so beautiful to see. It was just such a cool look at not only dark academia, but also our own mortality, relationships, friendships, how those things blossom, mental health issues. She just tackled so many very big topics, and at times it could have been overwhelming and maybe too much, but she did such a great job of blending all of these things together and made a seamless, unique story. And I just had such a fun time. So overall, I think I'm going to rate it a 4.5 or a 4-star. I think it's a 4.5. I don't think it's a 4-star. Just because it was so good. And this makes me excited to read Babel because I haven't read that yet. I know, Kenzi, you were saying that you've read it already, but if it's anything like this, I definitely cannot wait to read it because it was so cool. I've never read anything like this. The magic system was so close to a parallel reality of reality, which is really cool because sometimes it's very obvious that you're reading a fantasy, but this was the information we know already from theorists and philosophers that we already know their names of, but in a very fictional way. And I thought that was so cool, blending reality with fiction. Very cool, very nice. 10 out of 10. She's amazing. She's Beyonce. She is the moment. And I had a fun time.
We have some catching up to do because I finished Catabasis by RF Kuang. The minute you can get your hands on this book, you better be flying through it, and you will, because this is so fast-paced and totally enveloping into the story. This magic system is actually built on paradoxes, similar to the magic system in Babel that's built off of translation, what's lost in translation, and the nuances that are kind of missed, and then whatever is lost, that's the magic system. So the paradoxes in this book are used to create magic and have an effect on magic with chalk. And even the chalk that they use has certain nuances based on where it's sourced, the texture, everything like that. And that was just so interesting for me to read about. on one hand, if you love Babel, Yellowface, The Poppy War, you will devour this book. If you didn't like any of those, you won't like this book. Like, this is so up RF Kuang's alley. This is so her writing. And I feel like this book really gave her an opportunity to shine in terms of the romance and in terms of the pacing. She is so well read and well studied, and it just really shines through in books like this, where we're having so many academics and myths referenced in The Descent to Hell and their strategy in Hell and the map of Hell. And even just in the paradoxes, I actually just saw an interview of her on TikTok saying that she would hold paradox parties. So she'd have a group of people come over that are well versed in the paradox area, and they would do like a bit of a wine night, and they'd all bring their favorite paradox, and then they'd talk about it, and she'd be taking notes, studying, writing it down. And I thought that was so cool because so many of these tabs are just really interesting paradoxes that either I've heard before or I haven't heard before, or that really stumped me. Honestly, most paradoxes are marked in this book because I just want to revisit them, and they're interesting thought turners. I'm so impressed with this book on so many levels. For example, our main character Alice is battling a lot of misogynistic stereotypes in her time at school, and even herself. Like, it's so interesting to hear her inner narrative kind of combat or argue against certain feminist principles as a woman in this program. And I just felt like that was so relevant, especially today in this day and age. Her worth is so tied to her performance in academia, and she is such a nuanced character. She can be harsh and rude, but also the system made her that way. Has had to learn to be harsh and ambitious and work 3 times harder than her male counterparts to get half the distance. It's just such a tale as old as time. You can see in her head, she's criticizing the women around her for sleeping into their role, or nepotism, or being overly feminist, and she doesn't want to feel like people are treating her negatively or differently because she's a woman, and just grappling with the knowledge that that is the case and inevitably will be the case, especially in academia at Cambridge, especially studying magic, which is a predominantly male field. And the character development there as she begins to develop some more empathy, especially for her female counterparts, and also just the interesting take she had on feeling like the women in the industry and the field had to stick together and having that common ground, and just her resistance to that. She can be so critical of the women around her because she's heard how the men are critical of them, and she's been on the receiving end of that criticism as well. One of my main criticisms of this book, and I don't even know if I'd categorize it as a criticism. I mean, it is, because for me, it just was difficult, but I think it's exactly what RF Kuang meant to do, and it's exactly how she meant it to read. So I understand that part for sure, but I just didn't like being strung along, wondering why the hell they're even going to hell in the first place. It's like, okay, this professor died, you want to go save him. Why? The cost is so high. The stakes are so high. Why are we jumping into hell together, and why are you both doing it? But as the reader, as an outsider to this relationship, you just start pulling your hair out because you're like, you guys are obsessed with each other. Why are you trolling? What are you doing? You're obsessed with each other. It's so not obvious to them. And they're academic rivals, obviously. So you're having like this competitiveness that I just devour every single time. It feels like it's this constant battle of wit and accomplishment and success, both in hell and also as you get context of their actual life at Cambridge. I get recency bias hardcore, for sure. And I want to rate this 5 stars. I'm going to be so real with you. I want to rate it 5 stars. I keep comparing this to Babel because I feel like out of all of RF Kuang's books, it's the most similar to Babel because it has that academic setting. It's set in the real world. It doesn't have that same cast of characters. Like, this book really hinges on the relationship of our 2 main characters and their relationships with their professors and kind of the people around them, but they're all kind of on the outskirts of the actual plot and storyline. Again, Kuang does such a good job at capturing that nuance and capturing the imperfections of characters. Okay, I could yap about this book for hours on end, and I probably will continue to bring it up, but just know, this book comes out in August of this year. As soon as it releases, you better get your hands on this. Shout out to Sarah and Kalila. I'm so happy I read this with them. This would make a phenomenal book club book. I'm going to go through and I'm going to send a bunch of voice notes to them about my thoughts, about my annotations, and just give them a well-rounded review. I think I finished it before them, and I am chomping at the bit to get them to finish this book. I'm so excited for them to finish it. I hope you had a good time in this reading vlog. I hope you'll get your hands on this soon. I'm so excited for you to read it. And I'm actually currently reading Yellowface in audiobook format with my husband. So it was very interesting to read both RF Kuang books next to each other and just see her range up close and personal. Like the range in writing style, topics. No one does it quite like her. I'm so impressed. I'm forever going to be impressed. She is solidifying herself as one of the greats. She is a classic author waiting to happen, and I will stand by that. Thanks so much for watching this reading vlog. Thanks so much for being here on YouTube. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps me so much, and I appreciate it so much. Your support means the world. I've been filming a series about what I read while working a 9-to-5, so if you haven't checked those videos out, please do. They're a lot of fun, and happy reading.